Hello, and welcome back to Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I'm your host, Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Meagan Thompson-Mann.
And this is season 2, episode 4.
Wow. How did that happen? Like, genuinely and honestly, it's still January when we're recording this, barely. So
Yes.
I'm unsure how all of this came about.
Yeah, it's been a blur, hasn't it?
It's been a very full month this January 2026 in the United States. United with scare quotes around it, States of America. But we are still here for the time being until they, declare our podcast to be some sort of cosmopolitan plot. But right now, we're here for you.
What are
Sorry,
we
we're
talking
getting
about
bleak.
today?
So today,
I know, we are getting so bleak. Wait, I feel like every episode we get a little darker, don't we?
it's to be expected.
It really is. We're just reflecting reality, man.
I know we're very much in the here and now,
Yes. Bad Lit Friends has its fingers on the zeitgeist.
but not in a creepy way. I promise you.
Yeah.
Just
It does sound
like
creepy when I say it like that, doesn't
metaphorical
it?
fingers,
Yeah.
not like actual fingers. But I do keep mine clean. It's so this week.
Okay, now that's creepy.
Generally, I'm not that creepy, but that was creepy. I'll admit.
Keep your fingers off my zeitgeist.
That's right. Okay. Right.
We're just freewheeling this one tonight.
It is a freewheeling episode.
You know, we spent a
We spent a grand total of 4 minutes and 30 seconds coming up with this topic. I hope you all really, really appreciate what we're about to share with you.
I was going to say we spent an hour just shooting the shit. Oh, that's a different podcast. But we spent an hour shooting the shit before we actually started recording. And you'd have think we'd have all got it all out of our system, but
No.
we didn't.
No. We have plenty. We don't actually know where it's going to go, which just makes this all the more exciting.
Yeah.
You did not know you were tuning in for an adrenaline-filled podcast.
Yeah.
But
I am so high on chamomile tea right now that, we could go anywhere with this.
Look, I'm currently drinking a mango boobly, but while we were shooting the shit for an hour, I will admit I did have a vodka tonic with some Rose's lime. It's been a long week, people. So, but this week we are going to talk about what we wish we'd known when we started writing. This is like last week. We're going to do this a little looser and a little bit more conversational. Kirk and I have different writing journeys, but we have met some of the same hurdles along the way, but also, we've got plenty to talk about where we deviated, things that things that one of us has found more difficult than the other. And we hope that some of them resonate with you. I think especially in a time like this when things can feel very bleak and we can often feel very atomized and apart, it's good to remember that you're part of a community that has had the same experiences as you. We want you to feel less alone because writing can feel very solitary at times. And if this connects with you in any way, reach out to us because it's important to feel seen. And especially if you are starting out writing and you feel like you're the only person that you know who's doing this, you're not alone. You have us two weirdos with you. And, it's...
And not in a weird way.
Not in a weird, creepy way. We're not going to put our fingers on you. I promise you. No, I was going to say unless you ask me to, but even if you ask me to.
Yeah, no, we don't take requests.
I am betrothed. I cannot do such things. But, so before we get into it, Kirk, the usual, how you doing with the writing this week?
Can I tell you something funny?
Okay, please.
So I had we talked about this before. I had this great idea for this novel. I was really getting into it. I sort of got stuck in it. I've been muddling around with it, trying to figure it out. I have decided to set it aside for a while because it's just not gelling in the way that I need it to gel. So I'm pulling a Meagan. I'm starting yet another book.
I love this for you.
And I love the idea too. So I am in that, I'm in the honeymoon period. Actually, I've got about, at last count, just before I stopped to start recording tonight, I've got 14,000 words.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still in the honeymoon phase with it. It's coming together really good, I think. I'm really enjoying this. The other novel is still near and dear to me, and I will finish that novel. Like, this is not one of my other projects that just kinda dies on the vine, at least I hope not. I fully intend I think about that novel a lot. I just need to step away from it for a while to really just focus on something else, and hopefully the ideas for that one will eventually come, and I can get back to it. So
But
that's where I am.
be honest, though, you also created a cover for your new book.
I
Come
created a
on.
cover. I was in this. I hope nobody I work with listens to this podcast. I was in a very long and very boring meeting at work, which I had nothing to contribute. And so I just opened Canva and, so I'm listening to the meeting in my headphones while I'm designing this book cover. It's kind of a fun book cover.
It is fun. I have seen it. So I get you. Like, someday I'm gonna get back to my, politics, dating, reality
Yeah.
contest novel
I will tell
thing.
you, this is a very different book than I've written before.
Oh,
It
yes.
is so this is more, most of mine have been, historical thrillers, most of them, 2 of them. Well, 3 of them, the partial one that isn't that I've set aside, but, this one is a more literary novel. So it is a historical literary.
Excellent.
Having a good
Good.
time with it, yeah.
Good,
What
good,
about you?
good. Okay. So I did write last weekend before I had my Sunday hijacked by other ship. But Saturday, I did manage to crank out 1,300 words on the next chapter. So feeling pretty good about it. I
Yeah,
did
right on.
I did check my current word count because I know that I'm going to be over because it's me and I overwrite everything. But I'm currently at 70,000. So this is probably going to end up before I start editing. Around 92, I'm thinking, which I'm going to edit down to hopefully about 80. I think I can get it down to 82, 80 even, pretty easy.
Yeah.
So, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I was happy to be back with these people and continuing to kind of explore how fucked up this whole situation is. And now that I can see the end, I'm like, yeah, just push on through. Just get it done. I am amending my target finish date from the end of February because I have had lots of stuff happening in my life, as have other people in the universe right now. I now think that a very realistic end is the end of March. So yeah, a month. I really do think I'm going to be done with draft one well before the end of March, but I'm putting that in just to be kind to myself, but on target, and then we'll see if I go straight into the next book after that or if I go back to my, reality show idea that I had, or the very weird idea that I had for the accidental progressive trad wife semi-domestic thriller thing.
That's the book I wanna read.
I
Yeah.
actually wanna read it too. I told my mom, friend of the show, does wanna read this one, so maybe I actually have to, because mom wants to,
Oh, yeah.
but
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, yeah, you have to write it.
unfortunately. So, yeah, so let's talk about the things we wish that we had known when we started. What does it mean? What are we talking about when we mean that when we started writing? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's a pretty fluid question.
Mm.
I mean, I have been writing for as long as I can remember, but most of that time I was not writing seriously. And when I say seriously, I mean with an eye towards like the business of writing. I have made many mistakes along that journey.
Mhm.
I think though that probably the most relevant way to address that question is when you did start thinking about it seriously, when you did start thinking about like other people besides your mom and your sister or whoever reading your book. That's I think when you start looking back and saying, "Oh, I wish I knew this."
Mhm.
Right? So that's does that answer the question?
I think it does. When I think about it that way, I feel like I had 2 kind of inflection points in my life. I had this inflection point when I was probably about 14.
Mhm.
It was just before I started high school, and I wrote for my sort of middle school, lit mag, whatever, literary middle school
Mhm.
journal and wrote something that was actually pretty good, and then wrote in high school a lot and was praised for my creative writing and edited these 2 literary magazines when I was there, and I felt that being a writer was, like, the trajectory that I was on at that point, and, I was certainly, and we'll get to this later, receiving a lot of feedback from both peers and from people who were more experienced in doing writing, but for reasons that are long and dark, I put it all to the side during college and then got back into it in my 40s, and
Mhm.
that's, like, my other inflection point, where it took me about a year to realize that, like, I want to do something more than just write for myself. I was not sharing a lot. I think I gave you, like, a link to it. I was like, "Whenever you feel like looking at this insanity, go look at it," and, like,
Huh?
I don't think anybody ever looked at it but me, and that's totally cool, and honestly, some of it is, but, um, it was the summer of 2021 that I realized, like, I can do this again. I've taught myself how to do this again, and I'm ready to start getting serious again in the way that I was kind of gearing up to get serious about it when I was about 18 years old. I was less of a know-it-all. I was a huge know-it-all at 18, and I had been deeply humbled by experience, by the time I hit my mid-40s. One of the way like, I thought maybe the way that we can talk about it is, what do you wish that you had known back when you started getting more serious about it? Like, how do you find inspiration? How do you like, we all have a fantasy of what it's like to be a writer, like, "I am a writer." Like, what do you wish you'd known at the start of that you know now?
Yeah, I think, well, it's sort of a plus and minus. I do wish that I had taken the time to learn a little bit more about the publishing industry, about how the whole thing works. When I finally started my serious book, I still didn't have a really good idea about things like marketability. On the other hand, kind of think that because I didn't know that, I was free to actually write the book I wanted to write. But what it meant is that, I mean, that book in particular actually died on sub. And I can look back on it now and say, yeah, what I was doing was I was like straddling genres. And if I could go back, I would probably really tighten it up and so that I understood completely what shelf this book could sit on. My second book adheres much more to genre now. So there's things like that. Just if I had understood publishing a little more, if I had taken the time, that might have been helpful.
Mhm. I mean, I'm gonna focus more on, like, the adult writer self.
Mhm.
As much as I love tiny Meagan writer who thought that she was, I mean, God, she had so much confidence in everything. I mean, I love that for her. But I think it would have been that everything takes a hell of a lot longer than you expect it to take. That
Yeah.
you can have any number of self-imposed deadlines or, like, real deadlines, which I certainly had when I was in my certificate program, and they're kinda not real to some extent. Even for my certificate program, yes, I had to get things in on time. They weren't the products that I wanted to present. They were as good as I could get because I was working full time,
Mhm.
and I had X amount of time to produce what I wanted to produce, and unlike a lot of people in my course, I wasn't able at that point, and I'm still not good at it, at writing small. I write big. It's expansive, too many words all the time, 144,000 word, manuscript. But I think that I when I was younger, I had the ability to focus and the time and the space to focus and really produce that I don't as an adult, because I have a full-time, kind of demanding job. I had to learn how to be kinder to myself for not hitting, these self-imposed deadlines, like, "I have to do this, I have to do that." I've had to learn that it takes as long as it takes, and that's okay. For a type A personality like me, that has been very difficult to accept, but it's also very good for my mental health.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I will say too, yeah, I mean, now that you've spoken about it, I think that if I had really taken the time to learn the writing process. Not so much in craft because my craft is constantly evolved, but just a process. And some people's process, I sit down and I write for 2 hours in the morning, and I don't count words. Or maybe some people are, I don't stop until I've written 500 words or whatever. I think that if I had learned a process to be a little more disciplined,
Mhm.
that would have given me an edge then too. Although I'll be perfectly honest, my process continues to evolve. So I'm not sure how much it would have helped, but I know that I crank out a lot more words these days than I did just like 3 years ago,
Mm.
because my process tends to be a little looser. I mean, I write when I can write. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the afternoon. But when I write, I do actually like really focus on the writing and cranking the story out. So I wish I had been a little more process oriented back in the day.
I think those are really good points. When I started out again writing before I did the certificate program, it was as an outlet because I had just, taken the bar and I suddenly had all of this quote unquote free time. And I made myself write 250 words every single night, at
Mhm.
least, and sometimes it was a hell of a lot more, but I would not go to sleep until I had gotten those 250 words done. I am nothing like that now, but it was at the time, my workload was very different, and also, I was kind of obsessive about it. Like, I had
Mhm.
this pent up 20 years of not writing to kinda, like, get out of my system. It was like a form of therapy along with therapy, and it was COVID, for fuck's sake, for most of it. Like, the first 9 months were, but then after that, like, rip it off, it's all COVID, what the fuck am I doing? I would be up until 2 o'clock in the morning writing for nobody but myself. But the one thing it did give me is the discipline to actually set aside time. So I know for myself that I cannot count on myself to these days to write 250 words during the week. It just isn't going to happen. But what can happen is that I can write at least 1,000 words on Saturday and Sunday, both of them, and if I'm doing that, I'm clearing a chapter in 2 weeks tops,
Yeah.
and that works. It works for me. I found a process that works for me.
There was a time that I was very, slavish to a process that I hadn't even committed to yet. I think like a lot of writers, I picked up Stephen King's, On Writing
Mhm.
book, and he has some very, rigid guidelines
Yeah.
about, when to sit down, when to stop writing, and that works for some people. I admire Stephen King quite a bit, and he's always been a favorite writer, and so when Stephen King tells you, "This is the process you must adopt," I mean, in my head, I sort of felt like a failed writer because I just couldn't make that process work for myself.
So I'm gonna give an unpopular opinion about On Writing, which I have read, and I think it's a fantastic book.
Mhm.
I think that those are the rules that work for Stephen King and
Right.
his particular not just his skill set, but his challenges that he's faced in his life, particularly with substance abuse.
Yeah, yeah.
For him, having a structure, a rigid structure, is something that works, and it's very understandable, I think, for him, and not just that he, he's been in recovery for many, many years, but also the person that he is, even if he hadn't gone down that road. He's a person for whom this structure works. That's great. And this will work for some people. It won't work for everyone.
You don't have to use Stephen King's process. You don't have to have a specific number of words that you're gonna crank out. You don't have to do a certain time of day, but you should find a process. You should find something that you can stick to even if it's a little wiggly.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I have done and I've always done is find excuses not to write. And so if I can at least hold true to a process, and my process is very flexible and very wiggly. And that process basically is when you feel like you can sit down and just veg out and watch Netflix all night, you should be writing for at least some of that time, right? Like, if I feel like I've got 2 hours to watch TV,
Mhm.
I'm gonna spend at least an hour of that writing. I mean, that's just one aspect
You
of
are
that process,
not
but
coming for my 90-day fiancé, Kirk. Absolutely not.
no, but you can watch 89 of those days and spend 1 day writing.
Very true. But I will point out that when I am watching 90 Day Fiancé, I am often thinking about my book. I'm, like, taking notes. I'm also doing writing adjacent type things like being on Bluesky and interacting with other writers. I am doing things that are kind of related to writing. And yes, I am also watching, this trash. But I do it's almost like in some ways I think about it like when you're dieting and you are being super good and super disciplined and really sticking to the program. And then, like, one day you have a slice of banana cream pie and you're like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go eat an entire pizza right now because
Yeah, yeah,
obviously,
right. You have
obviously
that
I'm
one piece of
terrible.
pie and the whole week is blown as far as you're
The whole
concerned,
week, the
right?
whole month,
Yeah.
it's all blown. And it's like, "Okay, well, I didn't write today. Obviously, I'm a terrible writer. I can't trust myself to show up for myself to write, so what's the point of all of this?" It's a day, like, it's a day, and it's a day you didn't write, and tomorrow can be a day that you write. Tomorrow could be a day that you don't write. I had to tell myself that on Sunday because I had a lot of stuff that kind of popped up on Sunday that I had to deal with that I was not anticipating, and I felt bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
but my 1,000 words, my 1,000 words!" And then I said, "You know what? You got next weekend, and you'll write 2,000 words or more, and it's all gonna be okay. Having the structure is
Yes.
good, but don't be
And so it sounds like we both learned that lesson of, one of the things that we wish we had known when we started was to give ourselves grace,
Yes, thank you for
right?
moving this along, Kirk.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate this. I appreciate you. Um, um, so, okay, moving topics so we don't, kind of continue to dwell here. Let's talk about, publishing. I didn't know bullpucky about publishing at all. I mean, I knew I knew that there were publishers. I knew who the big 5 were.
Mhm.
I knew that there were agents. I did not know anything about querying. I knew absolutely nothing about querying. I had no idea how long anything took. I didn't know, what's involved from getting to, here is my complete and that again, we're going to put a lot of things in scare quotes in this episode. My complete manuscript, now that it's done, how do I make it into this book-shaped object? I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. And Kirk actually was the person who taught me, was incredibly generous with his knowledge about how all of this went. And I was just like, well, that's messed up. But he was very patient with me.
Which was my reaction when I was learning about it, because what I did was, I must have been maybe 3/4 the way through my book. As At some point, I just thought, "Yeah, I should probably, like, learn what the next step is about this." And like you, I knew about publishers. I knew you needed to get an agent. I had some idea that you need to, like, send your manuscript out. Oh, because I had written short stories, and I had submitted those short stories to magazines, like literary magazines, right? So I knew that process, and I just figured, books are just similar, and they sorta kinda are. But my wife will back me up on this. Such a guy, anytime get a new shiny in my field of vision, I have to dive into the deep end of the pool, right? I have to immerse myself. My wife can tell you all about the time, that I decided I was gonna make cheeses. Let me tell you, I could have talked your ear off about cheeses about a decade ago. And, sometimes I even made the cheeses. So I dove in, I watched YouTube videos, I read articles, I hit social media, I think I hit Reddit, and I just kind of immersed myself in this, and I, eventually kind of discovered, and it tapered nicely. So by the time my book was done, polished, edited, all of this stuff, I was ready to query. I understood the process at that point, and I guess that's not really a it's not really a I wish I knew, because I did actually know it by the
Well,
time it
no, but at
was
the very
handy
beginning,
information.
what you knew was, "I don't know anything,"
Right,
or
right,
very little,
right.
yeah, yeah.
And it sorta goes back to, if I had known a little bit more about it, like I said, I would have probably tailored my book a little more towards
Mm,
genre expectations.
mhm.
Ultimately, like I said, it died on sub, and so,
Yeah,
I
it's
coulda helped myself there, yeah.
yeah, I had no idea God, like, I didn't know about how agents, what their real role was. I mean, I knew that an agent existed, and my only kind of knowledge of agents really came through the entertainment industry and, what agents did for actors.
Mhm,
And so I kind of thought it might be like that, but it actually isn't. Simply because opportunities for a book are more limited in comparison to an actor who is creating something new each time they approach a role. Your book,
mhm.
to some extent, is static. I know in one of the last episodes I said it was dynamic, but it is what it is. The architecture is there and you're not going to change most of it.
Right.
So
And
it's
you
yeah,
could say, "Oh, well, you can put it in front of a developmental editor, and, that makes it a little more dynamic." But what I believe that you're talking about is that it's static in that when you present it to an agent, you get one shot at it. I
yeah,
mean, unless they tell you, like a rewrite.
yeah,
Unless I give you a chance to do an R&R,
yeah.
but, and then once it's in the agent's hands, you get one shot at an editor.
Yeah.
So in that way, yeah, you're very right. It's a very static object when you look at it like that.
On the other hand, it's a good thing that, as far as I know, most agents are not going by what we look like, unlike actors, because most of us would be sorely disappointed in our, sheer paucity of work that we were, look, we're lovely people. We're not all the most, photogenic. So,
You know what I like, though? So nobody can see us right now,
no,
but we're both wearing black.
it is true. We're both in black t-shirts right
Yes.
now.
I feel
Yes.
like we're like a couple little
I
beatniks
think maybe
just
this
to
is the bit that we put on video actually, and we release it and be like, "Look at my black t-shirt, it's safe." So,
We're so emo.
no, we're too old for emo.
We are.
We have established this. We are too old. So, it's very sad.
Speak for yourself. Okay.
Okay, fair enough. I also, I wrote down 2 notes here simply because they were things that have occurred to me along the way that I did not anticipate. The role of luck and timing.
Yeah.
Absolutely no clue that, there are flavors, that, there are fads, there are fashions,
Mhm.
and, your book that may be totally not sellable right now could ride the wave, in 5 years' time. You don't
Sure.
know. You
Sure.
don't really know. Um and also, probably less for a smaller fry. There's also the luck of the connections that you make along the way. If you are somebody who knows somebody, might get introduced to somebody bigger who, if
Yes.
you've got the connection, we see
Yes.
it all the time with like influencers. We're like, why the hell is that loser who is probably having his book ghostwritten? Why is he getting this? But it is luck and timing. As in any of the entertainment industries, book writing is also subject to this as well, and that blew my mind because I thought,
Sure.
"Oh, book writing is so important and serious and bleh," but it's not. It's, to some extent, it's just like what's getting shown at your Regal cinema, what's at the AMC. It's the same sort of tastes and fads, unfortunately. If you're there at the right time, fortunately. It's hard to say. And the other thing that blew my mind is social media. God,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, really still really hard for me to do this. I'm like as I've said before, I'm a really private person who has a podcast. but I am a really private person, and having to come up with a personality that acts as a to some extent, as like a shield to protect myself. It's still very much me, but it's a kind of distilled version of myself. But I understood, like, you gotta play this game, it's part of it, and I can only push back against it so much. I have to give in.
Social media was a really big surprise for me too, in that it would be such an integral part of being, in the writerly space. And I tell you, I know that there are people out there that say you don't need a social media presence. You just need to hustle or whatever. You know what? You need a social media
You
presence.
do.
It's a hill I will die on. I hate dying on it. I wish it was otherwise. But if you are a debut author or, pre-debut author, you got to get some kind of footprint out there. And I know there are exceptions. I know that
Yeah,
the first thing somebody will say is, but so and so doesn't even have a Facebook page or whatever, and they sold a
good for
million
them.
copies. Okay, fine,
Yeah,
that's great, that's an outlier.
wonderful.
The vast majority of us mortals have to establish some kind of social media presence. It's just the way it is. I wish I had gotten to that headspace a lot earlier than I did because I resisted it for a very long time. Yeah, I do wish I had gotten to that earlier.
It it's it's hard because it can feel like being rejected day upon day upon day. No matter how many followers you have, if you're not getting
Mhm.
engagement, it feels like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
But it's not only that, it's like you're also engaging with other people, not just being engaged with, and, like, remembering and making space for it. It's so much, and I've because my work has been so intense for the past 2 weeks, I wasn't able to do very much social media at all for the past 2 weeks. Honestly, I've been worried about it.
Mhm.
And I made a post today on Bluesky like, "Hey, I'm getting back out there," and it's actually been something that has troubled me, and, I allowed myself to be vulnerable on social media, like, I've missed being part of this, and then, of course, getting the likes, like, "Oh, I feel endorsed," and and then, like, how old am I again? It's an
Gotta get
important
that
part.
little endorphin hit. Yeah.
Like, again and again and again, "Oh, I've got, like, 8 likes on that, 9 likes," but it goes both ways, and you need to be part of the community, and being part of the community is giving back.
Yeah, for sure,
So,
for sure.
if you are a shy person, like I tend to be when I am making myself into new circles, I feel uncertain, like, am I treading in? Like, am I gonna say something wrong? Am I like, what am I doing? I don't know who anybody are they gonna be nice? It does feel like the first day of kindergarten sometimes. And allowing yourself to be vulnerable, but also, like, putting the shield up, like, finding the balance, it's really hard, and if you're not comfortable in these spaces, it can feel like torture, but
Mhm.
it is unfortunately, right now at least, part part of it, and if you can figure out how to do it, how to make your career grow in the way that you want to without social media, like, good. Genuinely, it's, like, good for you. I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna feel jealous, it's just, like, I'm proud that you can do this for yourself. The reality is for most of us who are planning to do something, especially I think for people who are planning to do self-pub, indie stuff, you're gonna have
Right.
to do it. You're gonna have to do
Especially,
it
yeah.
even more. It's even more important for you.
But even with, traditional publishing, even if you land a big 5 deal, the marketing dollars are not there anymore. Even from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, from what they were, unless you've just published some kind of breakout thing, and again, congratulations to you if you have done that, but most of us mere mortals, probably are gonna wind up on the mid list, and
At
so
best.
at
At
best.
best.
And so, yeah, you are going to have to do some of that marketing yourself, maybe even most of that marketing yourself. And so, going back to the core theme of this podcast, I wish I'd understood that earlier.
Yeah. I think so too. I wish I'd been less resistant, less cynical, and more open because the people that I have met and connected with have, 99% of them have been absolutely lovely.
I wish that, Twitter didn't turn into a cesspool too, because when I finally did
Oh,
decide
yeah.
to get on the social media bandwagon, I mean, I had become part of a very large community of writers. I had many followers, I followed many people, I had engaging discussions with people. When all of that fell apart, I had to just completely rebuild.
Yeah.
Mostly
Yeah.
on Bluesky, a little bit on Threads, tiny bit on Instagram, but yeah. So, uh,
Satan loves
I
you for being on Threads, Kirk,
yeah, yeah, I
you know?
know. I don't post that much ever.
I you know,
I know,
everybody knows how I feel
I
about
know.
Threads. So,
You're in a
but
safe space, Meagan.
I have found that Blue Sky for me is a place that I enjoy going to outside of doing writerly things. So
Mhm,
it makes it a talking about safe spaces, it's a safe space.
mhm.
And if and when I can figure out how to go somewhere else where I feel that level of safety, I'll go there. Right now, I don't know. I mean, Instagram seems to be where people are, but it's beyond me. Like I am not a Luddite either. Like I fully embrace new technology, but
Mhm,
for some
mhm.
reason Instagram does not work with how my brain is wired.
Same, same.
It just doesn't, but, old Twitter worked for my brain, so Blue Sky works for my brain,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
it's Facebook works for no one's brain. It will actively make your brain worse. So,
This is a true scientific fact.
I have measured this. I have not measured this. Bad Lit Friends has not measured anything relating to Facebook. It's all vibes, completely vibes.
Vibes is a perfectly valid scientific method.
It
You know
I
this.
ca look, our current US government is running on vibes, all of those vibes are wrong, but yes, you can run things by vibes only, clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
Run, again, in scare quotes, so, as I said, many scare quotes this time. What do you wish you'd known, and we've talked about this a little bit, but, like, what do you wish you'd known about developing your skills at the beginning of this? Like, what do you know now is an underappreciated skill that you either had at the start of this when you started or something that you have since developed that you think other people underappreciate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it really look, I'm gonna cheap out here, but I think it's important. Basically, the skill of writing, and it encompasses so many things, right? It was a big day when I learned, and I think I probably learned it from Stephen King, which was, to drop my adverbs. Now, at first I overcompensated like everybody does after reading his book, and I
Mhm.
I cut out all the adverbs, right? And then eventually I learned, okay, it's okay to have,
I'm so
here
glad
and
you
there.
came to the dark side.
Yes, yes. But, just really understanding that I needed to hone my skills, that where I was not where I needed to be. And that I needed to hone those skills, I needed to write more. Because we have this tendency is like, well, my writing sucks. So I need to take a course. I need to read a book. I need something to make my writing better. And I basically learned that to get better, I just need to write more. I
Yeah.
need to write a lot of trash,
Yeah.
and eventually it just gets better.
I cannot disagree. I think the skill is.
Good, because I was ready for a fight.
No, I totally agree. I think that, like, there are very few of us who are naturals at this.
Mhm,
Some of them,
mhm.
some of us are, come with a few more skills, in built or kind of, nurtured along the way before we start getting to this, a little bit more seriously. But most of us just need to put in the time.
Yeah,
I when I look at, the half a million word magnum opus now, and I look at the beginning, and I look at, the last thing I did in it before I abandoned it, I can see, I can see that the person who was writing that first one had some skill, but it's not the same person, same writer at all.
yeah.
3 years later, there's
You're
confidence.
better than I was. My stuff was absolute garbage, just absolute trash.
It was, I've been doing some, let's call it creative writing on the in a internet forum for a little while. I but I also had skills that I'd honed in high school, and once I
Mhm.
started kicking them back into gear, it's like riding a bicycle. You have the patterns.
No, Megan. It's like riding a bicycle. Huh?
It's like
Huh?
writing
Yeah.
a bicycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much like. But, the muscle memory is there, right? Muscle memory is there. You just gotta start getting it going. But I think what I didn't realize was that at some point I could take the training wheels off. I think I probably should have started writing a book a little bit earlier than I did. I just didn't trust myself. I think I was
Mhm.
ready, but
Mhm.
I needed, as you said, like, this external validation. For me, it was like taking a course and getting a certificate and going like, "Okay, now I'm ready." But I probably could have started earlier, but I was so, I think, afraid of failing in public that because I didn't know what writing a book actually entailed, that I kept myself from doing it. I think the underappreciated skill is just sitting down and doing it. That
Absolutely.
there's
Absolutely.
no better time than, like, 15 minutes ago
And
to
I do
start.
wish that I had understood that. I mean, I've got a library of probably 20 books on writing. About 16 of those are not worth the money that I spent
Mhm,
on them. But it was
mhm.
me saying, "Jesus, my writing is crap. I need something." And so, I'd hear somebody recommend a book, or however I wound up with yet another book on writing, that wasn't making me that much better, or in a lot of cases, it wasn't making me any better, and it was only, like, just sitting down and honing that craft that was making me
Yeah,
better.
yeah. I think I was also, dealing with this feeling of like, well, if I hadn't abandoned this 20 years ago, where would I be now? And having to overcome this feeling that maybe I won't be as good as I was. I mean, it's kind of absurd to say it now, like, but, like, maybe I won't be as good as I was when I was 17. Yeah, but I was being compared against 17-year-olds and not as an adult. I had to unpack a lot of stuff there. Writing will teach you so much about who you are as a person.
Mhm.
It's like philosophy and craft and, mind fuckery all at the same time. I think that I also needed to understand a little bit better about what good writing was, and that good writing exists in all genres,
Mhm.
and uh, that I needed to think about genre as being, um, that they all have different expectations. And I needed to stop classifying for myself certain books that I thought of as being trashy. No, they were in genres that I think are underappreciated. And they were actually very good books that still stand with me now. Like, I still think about them. They're just in, well, non-serious, genres
Mhm.
that are
Scare
actually
quotes.
being,
Yeah.
many scare quotes, but that are now being appreciated, like romance. I still love to read romance, and I've been brought up to think, well, literary fiction is it. That's real writing, that's serious writing. That is bullshit. You can write seriously in any genre. And I think getting rid of that kind of freed me up to be able to write my own book and go, I can write something that isn't like, fucking like On the Road, which is actually kind of a piece of shit. But, like, I don't have to write about that. I also had to let go a lot of my, like, internalized, like, acceptance of the patriarchy to, like, allow myself to write about, like, ladies' things, and understand that those are important things too. I
Well
had
said.
to
Yep.
let that go. Wrapping all of this navel gazing with a great big shiny writerly bow, what is the biggest lesson that you would tell yourself or wish that somebody had told you?
Yeah. I guess it would be to learn patience. Everything about writing is a lesson in patience. You have to be patient in developing your craft. You have to be patient with the publishing process. You have to be patient with yourself after you've written something, uh, to, set it aside and come back a week later or however long to read it again so that you can polish it. Nothing comes quickly in this entire process. And I look back at a lot of the stuff I wrote, and a lot of it I wrote because I mean, it was garbage because I didn't have that patience. I just wanted it on the page. I didn't have the patience to kind of go back and polish, right? Like I would just consider I mean, I look at like short stories that I would submit to magazines, and I was like, you know what? These were not ready in the least. I must have gotten a great laugh out of whatever editor was reading that. So, if I could go back and tell first of all, I would tell myself the lottery numbers, but if I didn't have that option, yes, patience. How about you?
Permission to suck.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that and this is something that it's a personality trait of mine, so God knows if I'll ever overcome it, but my perfectionist streak, it just runs through pretty much every cell of my body, and I have had to learn that it's okay. Like, drafts are a thing. Still not so sure about that, but that doing multiple drafts, it's just part of the process. And
yeah.
it's a process of getting better. It's not doing multiple edits isn't failure. It is like progress.
Mhm.
That I think for me has been the biggest lesson is that it's okay not to be perfect from
Yeah.
the very beginning. And you can ask my parents, they've been trying to teach this to me since I was a toddler, and it still hasn't sunk in. So I am a work in progress. So, maybe someday I'll accept it, but I do remind myself that it is okay to suck. And I am hereby giving all of our listeners the permission to suck, but
Yes, well said.
in writing only, because if you suck in other ways, trust me, Threads will find you and it will tell you exactly how you suck
Oh, yeah.
and tell you how you are transgressing.
And then
So
you'll wind up on hot goss.
you will find exactly, and it's time to talk some hot goss.
Alright, let's do
Cool.
it.
So, what are we talking about this week in hot goss?
What are we talking about? We saw actually, I ran across a YouTube video, so not Threads this time.
Amazing, amazing.
And it was so we've got the link in the show notes, and it is on a channel called Darkest Hour Reads, and I'm sorry, I don't remember her name.
Her, I don't know what the woman's name is. I didn't.
The video is this interview exposed everything wrong with modern romance. So,
Was it
what's wrong
though?
with modern
Wasn't everything wrong with modern romance? Let's start
it
out there.
didn't even
Let's start
scratch the
there.
surface.
Oh boy. Okay.
What
Let's be
what's wrong with
calm to
modern
start.
romance, Megan?
Like, so what's wrong? Okay, so what it comes down to is that this YouTuber, well, just call her Darkest because I have no idea what her real name is, was saying that she had come across this romantasy actually, writer named Jasmine Mass, who had written a series of books that were set in a kind of a retelling of the Hercules myth.
Mhm.
The first book is called Blood of Hercules, and she said everything that is wrong with romance is we can look at it in this book. What it comes down to is that it was lazy, sloppy slop that's written for readers who don't read, who just skim, and that it's being mass produced, pumped out too fast, and that it's essentially junk food. She also had some more pointed criticisms about that the author who is writing about retellings of, in this case, the Hercules myth, didn't understand the universe in which she was writing in Greek myths, especially because the author says that she has a degree in classics, and she was quite shocked that the author didn't know some very basic things like what's the name of Apollo's twin. Um, and
Mhm.
or how to pronounce certain gods' names. I will say this as somebody who's not just a recovering English major, but also a recovering classics major. I also was very surprised to hear this woman say that. I will point out that she was uh, sort of intersplicing segments from an interview that was done with Jasmine Mass and commenting on it. And okay, let's start with the things that I don't disagree with in terms of criticism. As I said, I was very surprised that that mass didn't know some very basic stuff about Greek mythology
Yeah,
that
that surprised me as well.
yeah, I think that any 5th grader, frankly, at least, back in our day, it was 5th grade was the year that we studied Greek myths for
Mhm.
history or Greek history, ancient Greek history, 5th grade. For our 5th grade play, we did, a child's version of Antigone, just what 11-year-olds need. They need lots of death and incest. So, Bad Lit Friends does not endorse death and incest, but you can cut that. But
Oh, I think
sorry.
I'm gonna leave it.
Sorry, but, this was some basic stuff. Also, this is Greek. Why are you calling him Hercules? It should be Heracles.
I
It's kind of an interesting the way that the author pitches it is as a dark fantasy romance reimagining of Hercules, where Hercules is actually a girl, which
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
kind of interesting, and, so it's not like a straight retelling. There's already that kind
Yeah,
of spin on it, and there the gods, like the Olympians, each have royal families that, are fighting amongst each other, and there's a magic academy, especially, essentially, and yeah, kind of like all of these tropes that we see in romantasy. So, this isn't like a strict retelling of the Hercules myth.
yeah.
It's drawing in from other influences. I think I'm kind of like, well, whatever this woman said in her
Yeah,
interview, whatever, is we all have our brain fart moments.
yeah, I do think that, if you are going to take another culture and write within its mythology, you probably should do the research. I say this as somebody who does a lot of research on everything I
She
write.
said she did the research too, which is really kind of shocking to me,
Yeah, yeah, because
you know?
it doesn't unless these are really cherry picked clips, it doesn't sound like she did a lot of research. In any case, I don't know. For me, okay, I get what this YouTuber is saying. I don't even disagree with what she's saying. I'm not sure that I am as invested in that opinion as this YouTuber is.
Yeah, yeah.
I understand where she's going though.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, as I have spent I spent some time last weekend when I realized, like, I don't have enough time to write. I spent time refreshing my knowledge on of the, 2000 and September 2008 during the economic collapse. Now, I was actually working in investments in that time, so this was my world. I knew what was happening, but I spent, like, a big chunk of Sunday refreshing my
Mhm.
memory. This is tangential to what I'm writing about in the book, but I need to have the background in my mind so I can think about what kind of anxieties these people might be tapping into. I put in it's tangential. And this is at the heart of what this author is writing about. So I can understand how this YouTuber would be very disappointed, especially if it's something that she's very interested in. And from the YouTube video, it sounds like Greek myths are something she's very passionate about.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I get that. For me, that this was not the sin of the author.
Right. Yeah, we have actually buried the lead here.
Yeah, we have. So the sin for me is that in this interview, the author said that that she writes, okay, whether or not you like it, for readers who tend to skim.
Mhm.
We all have books that we are kind of reading and we're not paying that much attention to sometimes. I've done it, especially, with kind of lighter fiction, stuff that feels like comfort reads, but people do it. It's okay. Whatever. Might be the way.
Far be it from me to tell anybody how they should enjoy a book.
Absolutely not.
If you wanna skim, you skim. I'm just happy you're reading a book.
Yeah, that's not the problem here, is it though? This author said that she does what she calls skim edits. Interesting concept. She said she just kind of flies through the page, and as things kind of, pop out at her, she tweaks them. No, no. You know why? And the reason why I am reacting the way I am reacting is because I feel like it's disrespecting her readers who are actually paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with me or Kirk and how we pay attention to our own manuscripts and what we do. I don't factor us into this at all. It's for her readers. She's creating this for readers. She is a New York Times best seller. It I don't really understand how that works. I don't know what it would look like in practice. I also don't know if she's actually telling the truth, but if she is, like, why? Why would you not wanna give, like, the full experience to your readers? They're paying you money, you know?
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, every book is an investment from the author, certainly, but it's also an investment from the reader. And, you're de facto asking me to invest my time and money into your world. I don't know. At least give it a full edit.
I will tell you that I did do the, look inside, and it's not bad. It's not my thing, but it genuinely isn't bad. I think it kind of leans into something that I see a lot in, kind of more popular books where the paragraphs are quite short, like a sentence, 2 sentences.
Mhm, mhm.
Look, I love a run. I love some big, meaty paragraphs, and I have to had to teach myself to condense and not be so as look, we've been recording for a really long time. It's because I have a lot of words in my head. So but I also know that people's attention spans are shorter, and having shorter paragraphs does keep people more engaged and kind of, doing the popcorn effect. But at the same time, like, I feel like she's letting herself down. Like, having read it, it's not bad. I think she's pretty talented. Hey, lady, what can you do with something else? I'd like to see it. Edited. I feel disappointed, and maybe this is. I feel like that this video, like, this is everything wrong with modern romance. This isn't a romance novel. This is dark romantasy. That's not a
Well, and let me tell you something, if you really wanted to write or if you really wanted to do a video on what's wrong with dark romantasy, my god,
yeah.
there's so much there to draw on. So the title is little misleading. I don't think any of this is earth-shattering. I don't think that any of this is really truly at the heart of what is wrong with insert genre at all, because every genre is, I'm sure, has got some, except the one I write in, has something wrong with it.
You're very special, though. I could talk for we could do it a whole episode about, what everything that's not wrong with Kirk's genre and everything that's wrong with mine.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
So and it would be even longer than this one. So,
So, yeah,
but
I hope she was pulling our leg. I hope that she actually does take her editing seriously. It does disturb me a little bit to hear that a book is being written with specifically for skimmers in mind, but like I say, I'm not gonna tell you how to enjoy your book.
yeah.
It just yeah, I
No,
don't.
no, look, I'm not gonna point fingers because and also those fingers are not touching you because it's creepy, but I'm not gonna point fingers. I
At your
skim stuff.
zeitgeist or otherwise.
Yeah, no, no, no touch. No le tangere. No, no, no. But I've done it. I will continue to do it, especially when I'm reading, like, news articles. I skim. Like, I do it. It doesn't mean that you're a good reader, you're a bad reader, you're smart, you're not smart, but it also isn't something for me because of the way it's written. So and
Well
it's all
said.
about me. It's
It
true.
is it is it is all about Meagan.
So takeaways, we didn't know anything much at the start of our writing journeys, and we still know next to nothing, but, that's why you tune in. We're relatable. But for me, it was learning that I could be totally trash and it's okay, but I'm trying.
I'm still yeah, I'm still learning that.
It's because I'm just the antithesis of trash that I've had to learn that it's okay to be trash. I'm
Yeah.
a deeply classy person.
I've read your stuff, Meagan. It's not
I do pay him for this. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit about building community in the writing sphere, what we've done so far and what has worked, what has not worked, and kind of finding your way because genuinely, it's the friends you make along the way, right?
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
and some of them are not friends, but that's okay. It's all a teachable moment. But I also wanted to call out a big thank you to Christy, who left a comment on our last next to last episode. I was delighted to see a comment on Spotify. Our first Spotify comment. Christy, you get the crown this week. Thank you very
Yay.
much.
Thank you,
Yay. Thank you,
Christy.
Christy. Thank you to all of our other listeners who have left comments and feedback and likes and everything. We appreciate you all. We are, this tiny podcast that is also looking for world domination, and we will take you with us along.
FIFA Peace Prize.
FIFA Peace Prize, we'll all share them. And in aid of that, you can find us on all of the socials. We're Badlit Friends on Bluesky, Threads, which did not bring it this week, I'm sorry to say. Uh, on Instagram, we are also on YouTube, and we are not on. Well, we're not currently under investigation, but who knows where things may lead in the weeks to come. In which case, we are not at Badlit Friends. We are at New York.
Nothing to see here.
We're at New York Times, so absolutely nothing to see here. But so sorry, I'm really tired. But until next time, we will see you then.